This conference will now be recorded.
So we'll discuss about report execution flow. Report components. So let's create a report first. So we do have in public objects, we have reports. So we have a shortcut where you can see here, you have a drop down. So whenever you are going to, let's say when you are in a report folder, so you can straight away click on this report shortcut. Okay, we can create a report here. So let's say when you are in filters folder, you'll have an option straight away to create a filter folder. This is the best shortcut. So let's go back to report or right click, new. You can scroll to reports, or you can also use shortcuts. Right click, new, click on R. So you'll get a blank report. Just click OK. So we do have report objects, object browser, report template or local template, as you can see, and we have a report filter or local filter and report details. Additionally, we do have view filter. So let me showcase that. So before going for all those details, let's create a basic report first. So by using object browser, we can browse those objects. So by default, we do have attributes. In schema objects, we do have attributes, or you can make use of some shortcuts. So click on attributes. Let's say I want to create a region wise. We have metrics. So click on metrics, sales metrics, and we do have few of the metrics. So we have profit and we have revenue here. So by default, whenever you're going to double click on top of attribute, it comes into rows. And when you double click on metric, it comes to columns. So this is the default functionality. If you want to check, you can see move to columns. So that means attributes comes under rows. That's the reason we are getting an option to go for columns. And just right click on metrics, move to rows. That means default metrics comes under columns. Okay, so we do have report objects. I will explain what is the advantage of report objects. Or simple, whatever the objects present in the report, you can see all the objects in report objects. So we'll see about report filter, and we have view filter as well. So let's execute the report. So these are all the components, like we have report objects, object browser, or if you can go back to view, you can see report objects, report filter definition, report details, view filter, these four. And we have object browser, and as I said, like we can also go for or like a report template. This is a local template. Sorry, because you have options to close all these. So you can close all these object browser, report objects, report details, local filter. So we have only a template. So if you want to showcase all the components of a report, click on view. You have report objects, report filter definition, object browser, report details. That's it. So let me execute the report. You can also click on grid view to execute, or you have an option to go for run. So let's execute the report. So we are getting the results here. So let's make use of report details. So it will showcase whether you have a report filter or report limit, or you can see we have an option to cache the report. So default, we have a report level settings, or sorry, project level settings. You can check that. Report cache use no. Okay, so And the advantage is like you can go back to SQL view and will verify uh, the like the SQL statement. So MicroStrategy advantage is like it will generate the SQL, the select statement, and it helps a lot to validate the results. So let me know if you have any questions. So these are all the tables accessed, okay, and you can see the joins between those tables. So this is the advantage where we can validate the SQL, and if you want to test, we can test the results in database level. So first of all, like whenever we are going to execute the report, uh, it will check in intelligent cubes. Let's say when we run the report, first it goes to cubes. It will check in intelligent cubes. This is the first one. And if it have data in intelligent cubes, we are going to get the results. Or this is the first option. Second, it will check in caches. So we have intelligent cubes and we do have caches. So if we have complete data in one single cube or subset of data in one single cube, we are going to get the results. And if we don't have data in intelligent cubes, or if we don't have intelligent cubes, then it will check for a cache whether we have that specific information in cache or not. So these two resides in intelligent server. So that's an advantage. So cubes helps a lot for performance. Then if we don't have data, basically we are not going to use, we have an option actually. So let's say if you are going to create a standard report, this is a standard report, but how it is going to hit the intelligent cube. Okay, let me save this sample report. I will showcase an example. One of the advantage in MicroStrategy is like, let's right click on the project. You have an option called as project configuration. So in project configuration, you have an option to go for intelligent cubes. Here, you can see a dynamic sourcing. So this is one of the excellent functionality in MicroStrategy called as dynamic sourcing, where let's say whenever you're going to create any report, that's what the advantage. Like if you have existing intelligent cubes and if you have subset of data in the report, let's say I do have year-wise sales report. If we have this particular, if we have year and sales in one of the intelligent cube, by default, instead of hitting the database, by default, MicroStrategy checks in iServer cubes. Okay, in the intelligent cube, if we have data, if we have year-wise sales data in intelligent cubes, then we are going to get the data from intelligent cubes. So that's an advantage. That's a concept called as dynamic sourcing. By default, we are going to default it is selected, it is enabled, but 99% of the cases we are going to disable in the project level because we do face some issues. Sorry.
Why is that we disable during the project?
So let's say if we have a filter condition in that specific cubes, so few of the cubes are created for a specific requirement. Okay, and let's say if we have any filter condition in that cube and we are expecting a different results, right? So let's say I'm going to fetch a region wise sales report, so I need all the regions. Okay, and if that particular report is going to hit the cube, and let's say I do have only south related information in that specific cube, so it is going to fetch only south related information, let's say south, southeast and southwest.
Okay.
Okay, so there are different specific requirements for creation of intelligent cubes. If we don't have any filters, if we have complete information in that specific cubes, then we can prefer dynamic sourcing. But most of the cases we don't not most of the cases for sure, like we are going to disable this, but this is one of the flexible option. But because of that specific reason where we have uh, let's say if we have two cubes and one cube is showing south and one cube is showing north information, in that case, like maybe if it is going to hit any of the cube, the data is different, right? So that is the reason we are not going to use dynamic sourcing option. If we want to use a specific cube, right, on top of that cube, we need to check the data. If we have we can check the cubes. If we have already existing attributes or metrics reside in that specific cube, we can create directly on top of that specific cubes. We can create reports on top of that. But for standard reports, we don't prefer dynamic sourcing. But that is one of the best option where it will check. That's the reason it will check cubes first. So let's say when you execute a report, it checks in the intelligent cubes, and if we have complete data in that specific cubes, we are going to get the results, or it checks in a cache. If we don't have information in both cubes and caches, then it goes to metadata. Okay, so it goes to metadata. As you know, metadata, we have definitions and connection information. So metadata is nothing but data about data. But here it takes the information of, let's say we are going to create like region wise sales, correct? Here we just created a report called as region wise profit. It checks for region and profit, so it goes to metadata, and it takes the definition. Here it takes the definition of that specific report, and then it passes to SQL engine. So we have three engines here. We have SQL engine, query engine, so it passes these whatever the definition, right? So it passes to SQL engine within MicroStrategy level. So SQL engine creates or generates SQL statement. It generates or it creates SQL statement on top of that definition. Okay, then because why this SQL statement passes to query engine, in the sense query engine directly interacts with the data warehouse. So it takes a SQL from SQL engine. So, and query engine directly interacts with the data warehouse, and we are going to get the results. So here we are going to get the results, but in MicroStrategy, we do have an option called, we have analytical engine. So we have analytical engine within MicroStrategy itself. So this calculation takes place in whatever the query engine, right? This calculation takes place in the database level. Okay, and we are going to get the results into MicroStrategy. Then if we have any analytical engine, example, we have OLAP services. So I'm going to showcase that. These are very important. Example, we have OLAP services, or let's say if we have subtotals or grand totals. Okay, so this calculation takes place in analytical engine, and we are going to get final results. Okay, this is what the report execution flow. So when you execute the report, it checks in cubes or caches. Then if we don't have data, then MicroStrategy, like here you can see, when you look into the SQL, so default it like we didn't get the data from intelligent cubes, because if you can see here, we are getting if it is going to hit the intelligent cubes, you are going to get an option called as intelligent cubes accessed. Here you're getting tables accessed. Okay, so now you can see tables accessed. That means we are getting the data from the database level itself. So if it is catched, let me showcase that. It will catch it generally, like uh, let me re-execute. You have an option called as purge cache, right? Let me re-execute once again. Most of the cases, when you execute the report second time, you can see report cache used. Yes, we are getting the data from cache.
Okay.
Okay. Or you can also check in the SQL level as well. So let's go back to SQL view. You can see here report cache used. Yes, you are going to get those tables, but it clearly shows that whether the cache used or not is yes.
Okay.
And this is going to happen only in the server connection, because in intelligent server, like we have this the server connection, right? So modify project source. So this is the server connection. So, and as I said, we are not going to work on two-tier architecture. So clear. So it goes to metadata. That's the reason metadata is very important. It takes the definition from metadata and it goes to SQL Engine. And in SQL Engine, it creates select statement and it passes the select statement to Query Engine, because Query Engine directly interacts with the data warehouse. And we are going to get the results back to Microstrategy. And in Microstrategy, let's go back to SQL view, and you can see the analytical engine calculations below here. So here you can see analytical engine calculation steps, and at least you can see like query pass start time, query pass end time, all the processing times. You can see all the details here. So whatever the calculations happen in analytical engine, we are going to check here in the analytical engine calculation steps. So let me showcase an example. So let's say we have region wise report, and go back to data. Simple, I'm going to apply grand totals, or you can use shortcut F11. Okay, so let's use grand total. So when you apply grand total, it's not going to calculate the same grand total in the database level, right? It's a waste of time. Again, it has to follow the same steps, right? If you want to execute the report, like again, it has to take the definition, the SQL engine, and query engine. Again, this calculation takes place in the data warehouse and we are going to get the results. So that's not the process. So few of the calculations straight away happens in the analytical engine. So let's go back here. You can see calculate subtotal. That is what total. So total is calculated in within MicroStrategy analytical engine itself. Clear?
Yeah. For the reports to run in caches, so we didn't uncheck that whatever in configuration disable
Yeah.
dynamic aggregation. We did uncheck, right? If we uncheck that, then it will directly go to database, right?
Yeah, that's true. So I also tried actually, like I think I do have few of the intelligent cubes in this current project, but when I execute the report, right, it's not hitting. Few of the objects are not hitting that specific cubes. Maybe it's good for now, but I will check maybe in the coming classes. So, but here for cache, we have project level cache, but let me showcase that report caching options here in the data in the report itself. You can see uh, use default project level behavior. If you want to disable cache, you can disable the cache. Few of the cases where we don't want to go for caching, because let's say if we want to get the let's
Late,
say in a particular day.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, like if you select that option, then you might not get the latest data, right? If your data is changing in the backend.
Yeah, so but you have an option, like let's say if the data refreshes every 24 hours, so you can enable cache, or you can make use of these options, like every specific time, like you have a timelines you can see. So based on the refresh, you can purge the cache. So do not expire invalidate cache on a schedule, something like that. So let's say in project level, you have an option to go for 24 hours or every, you can set the timelines. but most of the cases we are not going to use, we can use cache, but it depends. Like for document, we are going to use, few of the cases we use cache in real time, like for documents, because of the performance issues, you can make use of cache. So if it is only one time, like let's say if the data refreshes one time in a particular day, then that helps a lot. Let's say if the data is going to refresh 2 times or 3 times a day, then we need to purge the cache, uh, let's say 8 hours per day, or based on the data refresh. So in that case, we best way is like better we can disable the cache. Anything is fine, but yeah, we need to validate whether we're getting proper data or not.
Okay.
So this is what like report execution flow, and these are all the components. I'm going to explain each and every components in the coming classes. And in report details, as you have seen, like we have report filter or report limits, but importantly we have cache details. So it will showcase whether the report is cached or not. And you can go back to view after execution and before execution. We have an option to go for after execution. We have view filter, so we'll check on that, the difference between report filter and view filter. At least I will showcase now here the basic difference between report filter and view filter. Let's say you can go back to view. So we have report filter definition, or you can see the local filter here, the local filter. So if you want to apply the filter condition before execution of the report, better you can make use of report filter or local. It's a local, but you can create filters outside the report in the filters folder, and you can place those filters in the report. But let me showcase a simple example. Just double click. So I'm going to use region wise profit, and just click on browse. Or if you want, you can go back to attributes. Let's say I want to apply filter condition on top of year. You can simply drag and drop year on top of this. This is a shortcut. Or double click attribute qualification. So we'll discuss about these. So click on attribute qualification. Let's type in year YE, or if you want, you can type in complete naming convention. If you have only one attribute or any object with only naming convention called as year, straight away it opens that specific or like filter options, or you're going to get a pop-up. Let's say CA, click enter. So with CA, I do have call center, catalog, and category. Got it? So this is a shortcut. So let's say if you want to apply a filter on top of Y, that is we have only year. That's the reason it's open. It opens straight away. So this is the best shortcut. So now, so click on add. Let's say I want to showcase only 2015 data. So click OK. So year in list 2015, you can see here year equal to 2015. Let's execute. So we have year-wise sales, year-wise profit, and we didn't see any information related to 2015, but you can check here in the report details. But still, I want to verify whether we have the filter condition in the where clause or not. You can see in the select statement. This is the select statement. In the where clause, year ID equal to 2015. Okay, so this is what the local filter, or you can create filter outside the report, but this is an example where we can filter out some part of data by making use of filter conditions. Or let's go back to design mode. I will explain the details, like what is the exact difference between report filter and view filter. This is a simple example, but let me remove this. So let's say you executed the report. Let's execute the report. I don't have any filter condition, but after execution, so what I have said is like before execution, I applied filter condition on top of year, but after execution, we have an option to go for view filter. After the execution, you'll have the data, On top of this, if you want to apply a filter condition, you have an option to go for view filter. But let's see what are all the options we are going to get for view filter. Click on new field. You can see region and profit. So let's put as a rank and percent, but you can see we have only option called as region and profit. So that means if you want to apply filter after execution of the report, or if you want to apply filter by using view filter, we don't have an option to go for objects, that is other than report objects. It's not possible to apply filter. So that means view filter can be used only on top of report objects. So that's a limitation, but it is one of the best way. Like after execution, if you want to filter out some part of data, let's say I want to fetch only south related information. So let's make use of inlist, select elements. So let's select south, southeast, and southwest. Click OK, and you can click apply here. Okay, so I used view filter to showcase only south related information. It depends, whether you want to go for view filter or report filter based on your requirement. So now I'm getting only south related information, but let's go back to SQL. In the SQL view, do you have any filter on top of south? No. In the where class, I'm getting only joins, but I don't have any filter condition on top of south or south region. So those calculations, whenever you are going to apply a view filter, that particular calculation takes place in analytical engine. You can see here. So region ID in 5, 3, 7, because view filter comes under OLAP services. View filter is an OLAP service where all the OLAP services calculation takes place in analytical engine. And we selected south, southeast, and southwest because we are getting an ID form. Let me showcase ID form here. Because of you have seen like 537, that's what we are displaying here. Go back to SQL view. You can see a region ID in 5, 3, 7. Okay, so this is what we'll discuss in detail about like what is view filter and what is report filter. But these are the components. Like you can make use of report objects, you can make use of object browser, view filter, report details, and report template. We have a separate concept called as templates. So we'll discuss about that.
Okay.
So let me clear this. So this is a basic report, and the next concept we do have is types of filters. So we have filters concepts, like filters, right? So if you want to apply, if you want to exclude some part of data, right? So we can make use of filter condition. Basically, filters like whenever we are going to apply the filter condition, it impacts in where clause of the SQL, most of the cases, or in few cases, it will showcase in having clause of the SQLs. So filter is to restrict unwanted data. So we have report filter, view filter, report limit, and security filter. I will explain security filter after completion of schema objects. So we have report filter, view filter, and report limit. And so we'll discuss the types of filters. So these are not types of filters. Basically, in report filter, we have different types of filters. So generally in interviews, they will ask like, what is the difference between report filter and view filter, or report filter versus report limit, or among these three. But we have different types of filters. So first we'll discuss what is the difference between report filter and view filter. So we have report filter, yeah, and we do have view filter. So let's go back. As I said, let me use the same report. So this is a local filter. So you can make use of local filter, or let's go for the standalone filters. You have a folder called as filters. Let's go back to filters. Just right click on this, right click, new. The shortcut is like I. You can see, if you want to know the shortcuts, you can see underline a bit like below I, correct? So you can see to create intelligent queues, J is the shortcut. For reports, R is the shortcut. So, or as I said, right, if you want to create a filter, let's go back to filter folders. Simply you can click on this. It will open the filter editor. So click OK. So in the report filter, as I said, these are all the filter options. These are all the options we do have. Attribute qualification, set qualification, shortcut to report, shortcut to filter, and advanced qualification. So attribute qualification is on top of attributes. Let's go for attribute qualification now. I just want to differentiate the difference between report filter and view filter. So let's use attribute qualification. Click OK. Let's say I want to go for let's use south data. Let's use the same filter condition because I am using region in the report. So we don't want to use other objects because I will just want to differentiate between view filter and report filter. So let's type in region reg. Yes, we have only region which starts with reg. We have id forms, description forms. Let's go for elements. Click on add. So I'm using south, southeast, and southwest. Click OK. South filter. So what is the advantage of, let me remove this. What is the advantage of south filter? So south filter, or what is the advantage of report filter is, uh, let's open this. Instead of going for local filter, go back to public objects, filters, you have south filter. You can just drag and drop here and let's execute. Now you can see I'm getting only south related information, that is what south, southeast, and southwest. Okay, let's save and close the report. And we will verify the SQL. Anyhow, I will showcase the SQL view. Right click, we'll verify the SQL. Go back to view SQL. And you can see region ID in 5, 3, 7, correct? So you're getting the filter condition in the where clause of the SQL. And we don't have any analytical engine passes, like, sorry, the calculation which related to the filter. Because as we discussed, right, OLAPs, like view filter, the calculation takes place in analytical engine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's let me go back to grid view. So this is a report filter, and I will showcase a few of the examples. Like when you before execution, that's what, if you know already the filter condition before execution, basically you can create a filter. You can create a filter, and you can reuse. Reusability is very important. So we just use south filter in one of the report, but if you want to use the same filter in, let's say 50 or 50 reports, you can make use of the same filter condition, correct? So that's the advantage of report filter. So it's reusable. Before execution, basically before execution, we are going to use report filter, and it is reusability. It is reusable, where you can make use of the same filter condition or filter in multiple reports. Let's say if you want to change the existing filter, so it's not about filters, any of the objects. If you're going to modify any of the object, let's say I got a requirement to add another location or another region, right? So you don't change the existing filter. Let's see the impact. So you need to check the impact analysis. Let's say you have search for dependents and search for components. Search for dependents are very important. Like let's select on top of the filter. So when you select search for dependents, so this particular report is depending on the filter. Sample report, we just created only one report, right? So when you change this particular filter condition, that report is going to impact, correct? So then if it is one report, that's fine. But if there are 500 reports or if there are 1000 reports, so don't change the filter condition straight away. So the best practice is like check for the dependencies. This is very, very important. Microstrategy, basically, these are all the options. We have search object. In few of the tools, it's not possible to check the dependencies. We cannot fetch all the list of dependencies, but in MicroStrategy, this is one of the exceptional concept where you can make use of search for components and search for dependents. So in that specific filter, if you want to know what are all the objects used in the filter, we use region as an attribute. So this is one thing. So now I can change the filter. So other than, as I said, right, in the report filter, we can make use of other than report objects. Let's say we have only region-wise sales or region-wise profit report. I can change this. This is okay. Let's go for South filter, and I'm going to create another filter. Let's create a new filter, and go back to schema objects, attributes. Let me use year. You can drop straight away year and click on add. Let's say I'm going to use 2015. Click OK. This is 2015 data. So have South filter, and let's go back to reports. Sorry, let's edit this. Now I can make use of another filter, public objects, filters. You can right click, add to report filter straight away, or you can drag and drop. Now I do have 2015 data and I have South filter. Okay, let's execute. So we should get filter condition of filter condition on top of year and region. Let's come down. You can see here region ID in 5, 3, 7 and year ID in 2015.
Oh,
Okay,
so do we have an option to change or and I mean this or
perfect.
that?
Yes, yes. So we have an option. Basically, default you're getting a toggle operator called as N. If you right click, you can see you can straight away choose or condition or and condition or and not or not. We have all these options. Yes, that's a good point. In as you know, like in Tableau, default is and condition. It's not possible to change to or. That's the reason we are going to use set. We have a concept called as sets to make use of or conditions, correct? So but in here in MicroStrategy you have, or we can write a case statement. It's not a drawback, but if you want to apply filter, if you want to use or condition, we can write a case statement or if condition by using or operator.
Okay.
So this is what like a report filter. So what I mean to say is you can apply, you can create a filter. It's reusable. Before execution, we can make use of before execution we can make use of report filter. One important point is like it impacts in where clause of the SQL. And sometimes in having clause, I will showcase that, but this is very important. If someone asks what is the difference between report filter and view filter, it's not like before execution and after execution. The exact point is like it impacts in where clause of the SQL. So that's very important. So report filter basically basically it impacts in where clause of the SQL, and view filter it impacts in the calculation takes place in analytical engines. I will showcase that once again, the view filter. So view filter is an OLAP service. First point is OLAP service. So we have different OLAP services. We have different OLAP services. We have a view filter, dynamic aggregation, we have derived metrics, we have iCubes, and derived elements. So these are all the OLAP services we do have in MicroStrategy level. So we'll discuss on that after completion, or like let's say if you are in filter, we have view filter concept comes under OLAP services. While discussing on metrics, or I will explain what is dynamic aggregation. So in metrics, we'll discuss about derived metrics, and when it comes like cubes, I will showcase what is intelligent cubes and what are all derived elements concepts. So view filter is after execution. You can apply view filter after execution of the report. And we have already seen, but let me showcase that. But in the view filter, you already have 2015 filter by using report filter. But let me remove that. Now let's remove both the filters. So let's say if you want to apply filter condition on top of region, then it will be fine. Like we have region filter, region attribute in the report objects. You can go back to view filter, click here, click on field, region. You can make use of in list. And let's say I want to showcase Northeast and Northwest. This is good actually, like on top of existing report objects, if you want to apply the filter, then it is more flexible. And this calculation takes place, as I said, this calculation takes place in analytical engine. So you can see analytical engine calculation steps. Before previous version, I do feel like before 10th version, it seems you don't have this select statement. Straight away it tells that, okay, view filter calculation takes place in like something like evaluate view filter. That's it. You don't get this select statement. In the previous version, at least now they are showing a basic SQL on top of this region ID, how the calculation is taking place. So this is what view filter, this calculation takes place in analytical engine. But let's say now if you want to apply the filter condition on top of year, as we have applied by using report filter, now if you want to apply condition on top of year, it's not possible by making use of view filter, because the only restriction is view filter can be applied on top of report objects. So on top of the report objects, whatever the objects present in the report, you can make use of view filter. Other than that, it's not possible. Let's say click new field, you don't have year. You don't have an option to filter out on top of year. So that's the limitation. But whatever the functionality we have, this is one of the excellent functionality where it won't, again, it is not going to hit the database. This calculation, let's say if you want to apply, that's an advantage. If you want to apply the filter by making use of view filter, right? This calculation takes place in analytical engine within the MicroStrategy level. and we are going to get the results. That's what the advantage of view filter. So again, when you apply a filter, it won't go, it doesn't goes to SQL level, and it won't calculate in the database level. That's an advantage with view filter. Clear? So it will, this calculation takes place in analytical engine. And for report filter, as I said, it impacts in where clause of the SQL, and for view filter, it impacts in, or this calculation takes place in analytical engine. Any questions? So this is what the difference between report filter and view filter. So tomorrow, like, we'll discuss about the types of filters. We do have different types of filters in the report filter. Then later point of time, I will explain what is the report limit.
Okay.